Joining me right now is the man himself, Wyoming Senator John Barrasso, is the ranking member of the Energy Committee and a member of the Foreign Relations Committee. Senator, it's always a pleasure. Thanks very much for being here this morning.
Great to be with you, Maria.
So what does that tell you, that she was unwilling to just say what we all know, that we're at a record high in gasoline prices and there's no plan to fix it?
Well, it says a couple of things. One is this administration is completely out of touch with the American people and out of touch with the pain that the American people are suffering on a daily basis as they can no longer afford to fill the tank. They have to put in only so much money, and that doesn't get them very far. But, boy, maybe she ought to watch your show to understand how bad things really are. And it does seem with this mentality, there's no end in sight. You've seen the reports. They're looking at $5 a gallon through the summer. And we ought to be unleashing American energy, and there's an opportunity to do it. But this president refuses to do it because he is so beholden to these very liberal leftists in terms to their climate agenda. And the American people are suffering and having to change their life as a result of it.
Well, it's pretty sad when you look at what's happening today in America. And you're right, people are suffering. And that's why I want to ask you about the Ukraine aid bill. I know you're just back from Ukraine. Thank you for going there, by the way, meeting with President Zelensky. But the Senate passed the nearly $40 billion aid package for Ukraine last night, sending it to the president's desk. Now, I know you voted yes for this bill, but you can understand why people are questioning why we're sending all of this money to Ukraine and haven't sent a dime to the border. We're about to see Title 42 go away, and we're about to see 18,000 people a day get apprehended, and there's no money whatsoever to actually build up the strength that we need at the border. So give us your sense of the Ukraine bill. Is that it, or are we wide open to sending more money? And how come this administration won't even consider trying to rein in the chaos at the border?
Well, there's a lot that you asked there. First, the border is not secure. And if I thought that voting for more money for the border would actually be spent at our southern border, I'm all for that. You know, the administration and Chuck Schumer specifically have been blocking votes for that. And this administration says they are not interested in spending that money at the border. They're not in favor of helping us keep that border secure, and it's going to get a lot worse. With regard to the specifics of Ukraine, we have people there who are fighting for their lives, fighting for their freedoms, fighting for their country. And I believe we need to just give them the military aid they need in terms of the weapons, the ammunition, and the resources that they need to fight that fight against Vladimir Putin. He's not going to stop until he is stopped. He absolutely overestimated his own capacity, underestimated the willpower of the people of Ukraine. But we know that he has now united the world to the point that countries who have never been participating in NATO, who have very robust militaries, and we see that in Sweden, we see it in Finland, they want to join NATO. Those are a big plus to that, so they're going to be contributing money as well to help in that effort.
Yeah, I mean, we all want to see Ukraine win. This death and destruction caused at the hand of Vladimir Putin, when does it end? What are you going to be looking for in terms of getting a sense of whether or not Ukraine is winning?
Well, it seems that they are right now in terms of the pushing back of Putin. They're getting the weapons. They need additional weapons. The world benefits also if we can push back on Putin to the point of getting the grain out of the port that's right now in Odessa that can't get out because the Russian ships are in there. So there are things that matter for the world in terms of pushing back on Putin. So we've passed in a bipartisan way that legislation. I'd love to see this a bipartisan agreement on energy. You'd think that the other party ought to realize that they need to do more to protect our country in terms of our economic security, our energy security, and our border security. We can get absolutely no cooperation from the Democrats on the border, on energy, which is why I believe we're going to have a stunning victory for Republicans in the House and in the Senate and all across the country come November, Maria.
I mean, Senator, you think things can't get any worse. I mean, sky-high inflation, an inability to feed our babies, baby formula shortage, aggression coming out of China, aggression coming out of Russia. And yet now I'm talking to guests on this show. They're talking about potential famine, okay? Senator, I'm glad you just mentioned bread and, food, because people are worried about food shortages and a famine. What are you?
I have great concerns about that. And so much of this is also related to energy. And you have the President of the United States now going to the dictators in Venezuela to say, hey, let's go to you to get energy. Don't get it out of the ground here in the United States. Oh, no. Turn to a dictator, which is wrong on so many levels. One is he's a dictator. Yeah. Two is the amount of energy you're going to get isn't going to make a dent in the high prices that people are suffering. And number three is Venezuela has the worst environmental standards in the world. So for a president who seems to be and claims to be so beholden to the environmental interests, in no way is that what we're getting out of Venezuela. So this president is wrong on absolutely everything, whether it's the border, whether it's the energy, whether it's the economy, whether it's coddling the dictators. We have a president who really is not leading it. Maria, 3 out of 4 Americans say the country is heading in the wrong direction. The president's numbers are at an all-time low. That's where we are in this country. We need to get Republicans in charge of the House, in charge of the Senate. I need to be the chairman of the Energy Committee, and that's what we'll do in November.
Well, we're going to watch that, and I know you're going to make real change as chairman of the Energy Committee. But, Senator, let me get your take on what you're doing on China, because it seems like Joe Biden is beholden to China. The House and Senate bills out right now would spend $400 billion and $245 billion, respectively, on a mix of industrial policies to compete with China. But, it always seems like when negotiating a China bill, China gets the better end of the deal. Now, Joe Biden is going to be removing tariffs from China, the Trump-era tariffs. We've already did away with the China initiative. What will China policy look like, Senator?
Well, a lot different than the bills that passed the House and the Senate. As you know, Maria, I voted against the bill in the Senate. I'm on the conference committee because I think we ought to do things very differently than what the House and the Senate want to do. The House bill is basically the Green New Deal on steroids. They've added it. The things they couldn't get in Build Back Better, they've just added to the China bill. It is obscene what they're trying to do, things that have nothing to do with China. I think it's going to be very difficult for them to get that passed at all.
After all of the inflation we've seen, which was stoked by all the spending, they still are pushing through this clean Build Back Better agenda, now trying to attach it to the China bill. It's actually extraordinary. Such a tin ear while we watch inflation at 40-year highs, Senator. We're going to be watching all of that. We so appreciate your time and your leadership. Thank you, John Barrasso.
Great to be with you. Thanks, Maria.
All right, we'll see you soon.